Welcome to This Old App, a podcast about learning, coding, smashing stuff together, breaking things apart, startups, failing, winning, and any other buzzwords we can think of.
Hey, good afternoon, Randy.
Hey.
This week we've got another guest on with us today. We have Jesse Weigel with us. Jesse is an instructor on FreeCodeCamp. He does some tutorials through YouTube. Jesse, you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Hi, I'm Jesse. I'm a front-end developer for a small university, and I also do a lot of live coding sessions for FreeCodeCamp.
Very cool. So let's start with FreeCodeCamp. How did you get involved there? How did you decide to start doing these tutorials for FreeCodeCamp?
All right. Well, a little over a year ago, I just had the idea that I wanted to get the computer science students in my university more involved because I wanted them to get some stuff on their GitHub profile. And I thought this would be a good opportunity for them and a good opportunity for me to have kind of a team working on these projects. So I thought, what if I live stream what I'm doing, my day-to-day work? And I just put it out there. I sent a message to the Computer Science Club, and then I happened to just put a message on the FreeCodeCamp forum, and I said, hey, I've never done this before. I don't really know what I'm doing. If anybody has any advice for me, please let me know. Well, I ended up getting a lot of clicks on the link to my live stream from that forum. And one of those clicks was from Bo Carnes, who is a big contributor to FreeCodeCamp, especially through the YouTube channel. And he took a look at it and liked it and talked to Quincy about it, Quincy's the head of FreeCodeCamp. And they invited me to live stream on their channel. And at the time, their channel had over 100,000 subscribers. So I thought, yeah, definitely, because I had a handful of subscribers on my channel. Sure. So I did it, and they liked it. And they had said, well, how often can you do it? And I said, well, can I do it, 5 days a week? And I said, yeah, great. So I ended up live streaming about an hour or two, 5 days a week. And sometimes I can't get to 5 days because my schedule's just too busy, but
sure.
But that's how I got into it. And so I didn't set out to have, I didn't set out to stream for FreeCodeCamp, but I'm glad that it happened. And I didn't really set out to live stream to a large audience. I think maybe a few of the people at my university have seen it, but it ended up being more popular with other people.
Sure.
So can you, what is FreeCodeCamp? I've seen it. I've seen it on Medium. I guess they're like a sub publisher or something, but I don't really know what the objective, the founder you said is Quincy. Mm-hmm. I don't know much. Can you just give us some details about what is FreeCodeCamp? What's their objective? What are people getting out of it?
So they want to enable people to learn how to code for free. And so it started with, I've been a member of FreeCodeCamp almost since the very beginning. So if I can remember correctly, it started out with, at least when I joined, it was just some online challenges, coding challenges. So they started you out with, your basics, HTML, CSS, and then move you into JavaScript. And then eventually you go all through front end and back end. And they give you these certifications. And the idea was that you would work on nonprofit projects when you were done, kind of as a way of giving back. It's since gotten a lot bigger. So as you said, there's that Medium publication, which is huge. There's also a forum. There's a whole kind of knowledge base that's set up almost like documentation for something, but it's documentation for everything you could think of. that it has to do with tech. And everything that FreeCodeCamp does is open source, so it's distributed over the entire world with hundreds, if not thousands, of contributors, all adding, all adding, in their areas of expertise. Trying to think if I'm missing. Oh, they have a podcast as well, and the YouTube channel. So, I fit in the YouTube channel part of it. I haven't read any articles or anything, or even worked on the challenges. All those GitHub repos are there, but yeah, it's grown to be something just huge. And on the forums, there's a lot of really awesome stories about people who have changed jobs and gone through FreeCodeCamp's curriculum and been able to get a lot better jobs.
Yeah,
and that's really cool to see.
So let's rewind a little bit more. I'm also curious about how you got into this, because obviously FreeCodeCamp didn't teach you code. How did you learn all this stuff? How did you get to the spot where you are right now in your career?
All right. Well, it was mostly self-taught, right? So I did take earlier on. I had a week or two of basic HTML in high school. It was lumped together with the class where you learned all the Microsoft stuff, right? Excel and Word and all that.
Yeah.
So that was my introduction to it back in the early 2000s, and I started to take a class in web development in college, and then I ended up dropping the class. And I did successfully complete a C++ course, and that pretty much ends my formal education. So here and there, I would do a little bit of web development work, just very basic HTML stuff, but I didn't really consider it as a career. I ended up getting a business degree and working a variety of jobs unrelated to coding. And I taught high school for a while. And then when I decided to quit, I quit, and then they pay you up until August, so you have that whole summer. And I thought, okay, I need to find a job. And towards the end of that summer, a friend of mine from high school saw my dad at a wedding and handed him a card and said, "Hey, I'm looking for people to work." And my dad had told him that I was looking for work, and so I reconnected with him and started doing some web work for him. He had a media marketing company, did mostly WordPress stuff, a little bit of Drupal and Joomla here and there. That was right around the time when Joomla and Drupal were kind of falling off, and WordPress was really taking over in terms of the PHP content management system area. And he had developers on board when I started. So I was doing copywriting and search engine optimization. But what had happened is there was opportunity for work at times that he would say, I'll pay you for so many hours of work if you learn how to do this thing, because I need it done, and the deadline's coming up. So I quickly realized, hey, I can get a lot more hours in here if I learn how to do this. So that's when I really started to get into JavaScript more. And at the time we were doing a lot of WordPress, so a little PHP as well. But I did that for a few years and just learned what I needed to do for the project. So I branched out and did my own freelance thing as well. So some of it was subcontracting with my friend's company, and then some of it was on my own. But it wasn't really a plan to the learning so much because when you're freelance, obviously, if you're learning on your own, you're not getting paid.
Yeah.
So it was always driven by, what does this client need? And I always tried to take on jobs that would be more challenging in areas I wanted to learn, but sometimes you just have to pay the bills. So it wasn't, it wasn't really until I got this job. So this university is about 10 minutes drive by car from where I live. So I was always on the lookout for jobs there because, it was so close. They had good benefits. I thought, I'm going to check it out. So I ended up getting a job there, and they created a position for me. So they actually picked somebody else for the job I applied for, but created a position with a very vague job description for me. And which was great because I got to focus more. So then after I realized the areas where I could help, I really started to focus in on JavaScript development, and then more specifically, especially within the last year and a half, React development.
Yeah,
and that's been great to be able to have the time for a more structured plan of learning, because I can choose what technologies we're going to use and how we're going to do projects. So it's not necessarily jumping from client to client. So that's been nice and accelerated things. And then at the point when I started live streaming, my learning actually accelerated faster than it ever has, which was surprising and a really good surprise.
What do you attribute that to? I mean, your background is very much like Don and I. I mean, all the way through the PHP and the Drupal stuff, because that's how Don and I had kind of started working together. So you're self-taught. You've been working on projects for clients and, a variety of different things, and you've learned along the way. And that's exactly how we did it. But the interesting thing is what you said right there, about once you started live streaming, your own personal education ramped up. Can you explain that a bit?
Yeah. So when I live stream, I often get, I would say an average is somewhere between 20 and 30 viewers is an average at any given time. And I always invite them to let me know if I'm doing something wrong, call me out on it.
Yeah.
Share their ideas for the projects that I'm working on. But then also, I invite them to open their own pull requests on my project. So everything that I do is open source, and they're all real projects that I'm working on for my job, for my day job. So, which is really nice. My boss allows me to do these live streams, during work hours. So what ends up happening is, people that have expertise in areas that I don't submit pull requests, or they suggest things, and I can't just pull that code in without knowing what it does and testing it.
Yeah.
So it forces me to learn new things that I didn't even know existed, or I just would not really take the time to learn otherwise. So it's constantly pushing me. And then you never want to be in that position on a live stream where you just have no idea what's going on. So it's kind of like a double incentive. Like I want to understand the code before I pull it into the project, but then I also want to sound like I know what I'm doing on the live stream. But before, I worked on projects by myself. There was one other developer, but he always worked on projects by himself. So anything I did it. No one ever saw my code. I could have done anything. So it would have been very easy to just stagnate in that situation. As long as I'm producing things that meet the requirements, no one would care. But now things like code formatting became a big deal. When it's just you looking at your code, it's really easy to be lazy about that. But when there are a lot of other people looking at your code, it becomes important. Like, is this readable? Things like how to organizing a Git repo and making sure that it's clearly defined, a README, how to run this project, how to contribute, keeping things up to date, all the packages up to date, because there are a lot of people looking at it and seeing like, hey, you didn't update this thing or that thing, and they remind you of it. They'll open up an issue on GitHub and say, hey, you're like 10 versions behind on this thing. Like, you got to update it. So that was really unexpected, but it's been great. Just kind of this great incentive to keep going and to keep learning. And I don't want my stream to be too repetitive. So every time we do a new project, we use something new. Sometimes it's just the newest version of whatever we're using, but sometimes it's something completely new. So it really does stop me from just saying, all right, I've done it like this. We're just going to keep doing it like this and go through it fast. I don't do that now. So I never wanted to get like that anyway, but now it's really, the pressure's on. And the pressure's also on to get things done. I bring everybody up to date every day when I stream. I say, here's what I've done. Well, if a week goes by and nothing's ever done except on the live streams, it would be pretty obvious. Like, what are you doing? Occasionally there's a lot of there's a lot of meetings, paperwork, and things. And when that happens, I like to explain it because I want people to get a realistic view of what it's like for me as a front end developer. And sometimes that happens, but it's kind of like pair programming on a large scale.
Yeah,
I suppose,
sure.
And
I've never done that, by the way. Like what you're doing with that kind of pairing, group pairing. I might try it, but I can't really right now think about having that much accountability on my back while I'm doing a side project. So kudos to you for that.
For sure. So Randy, you teach the boot camp. Have you seen that your knowledge gets deeper after you teach a semester or so, just because you have to dig into some of the corners that maybe you didn't dig in before, or strengthen something else?
Well, yeah. I mean, I feel like when you have to, and this goes right into what Jesse's saying, when you expose a subject to a bunch of people, you have this humongous growth of edge cases pop up, whether it's through the question from the class or students run into bugs you've never seen. And just like Jesse was saying, you want to feel like you always know what you're doing, or at least stand up there with confidence. So that means you have to research things that you just don't normally care about. My students always have this ability to find things that they shouldn't care about and then ask me at the very beginning. Like, I'm teaching variables and someone's like, can you tell me what a closure is? I'm like, whoa, this is way separate. Like, you don't need to be worried about that. You need to learn how to put a number to a variable name. But you don't want to shut them down, so you have to answer it as best you can. And so I do think that having this audience, by whatever means, forces your hand at being more knowledgeable, researching more, and being exposed to more edge cases that you never really needed to care about before.
Sure.
Jesse, the one thing I'll tell you about teaching at the beyond the high school level is the insanity that is a high school classroom is not the same beyond that. So if you can teach a bunch of people through an online platform, I feel like you could teach a bunch of people face to face that are probably beyond the age of 20, that are grown up and looking to actually learn rather than just get a degree, a high school degree. So I found that with my class. I had a classroom of 30 students, and I would say at least 80 to 90% were dedicated and terrific students in my situation.
That sounds nice. I would like to teach it in that situation.
Yes. High school, I wouldn't. I don't know I could handle high school.
A lot of high school is just trying to enforce rules like dress code and things like that. And I was like, that's not why I'm here. It's
yes.
Yeah. So it would be nice to have a class where the majority of people do really want to learn. And and so I mean that's kind of what I have now. Nobody gets anything official from it, but a lot of people that are trying to learn, and it's nice. There's a lot of different people. We've had people that are under 10 years old, and people that were. I think we've had people in their 60s. I'm not sure if we had anybody in their 70s, but and then all over the world as well. I've actually changed the times of streams occasionally so that one of our regular viewers was afraid that their mom was going to yell at them because they're staying up too late to watch it. So I ended up streaming earlier than normal. But that's cool. And some people are professional developers and have been for a long time, and other people are just starting. Some people are shifting from one area of the tech world into a different one and trying to learn. So it's a nice variety, and it's a variety that I could never get in a classroom. Where I'm at.
For sure. So, Randy, looking at Free Code Camp's front page, it looks like they've got almost 2,000 hours worth of various lessons on everything from web design to front-end libraries to data visualization and so on and so forth. So just back to what Free Code Camp actually has. There's a good amount of front-end stuff here. I wouldn't say that there is a certification on APIs and microservices as well. So looks like it's a good variety of stuff.
So Jesse, I haven't seen your streams. So explain a little bit about how you do it from the technical side. Are you just showing your coding screens, like just the monitor on a wide screen type of deal? Or are you standing with talking head where you're talking to the screen? Like, what are you recording for them? Like, how long do you record, and what are you recording?
Yeah, we usually, the recording is between 1 and 2 hours, and it's always live. I use OBS. It's a free broadcasting software, and right now my setup is the whole screen is one of my monitors. I usually run 3 monitors. So one of my monitors the viewers can see, and then I have a small rectangle down in the corner that shows my face, and I'm just sitting, in my normal chair where I work from, and I just have a webcam that shows my face. At first I didn't. For a while I wouldn't show my face, and I thought it would be difficult to have to worry about my facial expressions, but then I got some advice, and I read some things about how much more your viewers can understand you when they can see your facial expressions. And so I thought, okay, like showing my face isn't about, me wanting to be on camera. It's more about helping my viewers to be able to understand me. And especially since so many of my viewers, have another language other than English as their first language, I thought that would be really valuable. So I started showing my face. And so that's the setup that I have now. So I do usually start the stream with a full screen on my face. And that's kind of nice, because if I don't quite have my monitor ready yet, it gives me a little extra time to do an intro and set up my screen for everyone and make sure there's nothing, no passwords or API keys or anything on the screen that I shouldn't show. And then when I actually do stream, I use Pomodoro sessions to break the stream up. So for anybody who's not familiar with that, it's a method of breaking up your workday. So I do a 25-minute session of coding, and then I take a 5-minute break. I go to the live chat and I answer any questions, and then I go back and do another 25-minute session of coding. I usually try to do 2 Pomodoro sessions. Sometimes I do more. Occasionally I can only do 1 if I have a really busy day. But that kind of keeps a nice flow of I can always let people know if I see a lot in the live chat while I'm coding. I can say, hey, hang on, in 10 more minutes, I'll get to all your questions. Before I started doing it that way, sometimes when I got a lot of questions, we would get very little done with coding, and it would be hard to follow because I kept getting interrupted and trying to answer questions as they came in. So by breaking it up, it allows me to get things done and still interact. And if I have a question, which I frequently ask questions when I'm doing things, especially when it's how something looks, and I'll say, okay, we could do it like this, we could do it like that. What do you think? What's better? and then I'll go back to the live chat. So I don't completely ignore the chat when I'm coding, or if I get stuck, I'll say, what am I missing here? And often I'll look back to the live chat and somebody will have already caught my mistake and told me about it in the chat. So that's actually a really big plus as well to coding live with all those people watching, is a lot of those little mistakes that sometimes you'd spend a really long time looking for. It's caught immediately. So if you mess up some syntax thing, or even you misspell, you spell variable two different ways, right? It's, usually the viewers catch that. So I avoid those mistakes a lot when I'm streaming.
Interesting.
So, quick question. Something I've started to watch a bit is live streaming on live coding on Twitch. Have you looked into moving to Twitch? Is that just you don't want to leave your audience that's already built on YouTube? Because it looks like FreeCodeCamp does have a channel.
Yeah, so
on
FreeCodeCamp started out with doing streams on Twitch. And then that kind of died down, and they went, they had a YouTube channel, and their YouTube channel was mainly pre-recorded videos. And then when I came on a little over a year ago and started doing, a lot more live streams, we've had a few other people do some live streams as well. I guess I went to the YouTube channel because that's where we had the bigger audience. I did make a Twitch channel, not separate from the official FreeCodeCamp channel, and just kind of made one and thought about doing the streams. So I may end up doing some Twitch stuff. Whether or not it's for FreeCodeCamp, I'm not sure. I have been told that there's a way to stream simultaneously to YouTube and Twitch. So that's a possibility, and I'd be open to that. And then that way viewers could choose to watch on whatever platform they prefer.
Yeah, but then you have two chats to follow.
I didn't even think about that. Wow, that's a great point. So I may have to get a moderator at that point to help me out. Sure. But I could do. When I'm at home, I have a MacBook Pro, and it has a rough time handling the streams. I have to shut everything else on my machine down. But I'm at work in my office at the university. I have a more powerful setup, so I could probably handle more at there. So the Twitch stream maybe would start out as something occasional, but I am interested in at least looking into that.
Yeah, I still am on the fence as to how big Twitch is going to grow outside the gaming arena. Mm-hmm. But I do hear a lot of people talk about it as another place to grow your brand. So it's I don't know if it's worth diluting your YouTube brand to do it. It's an interesting question to ponder.
Yeah, and I wonder, and I don't know any data on this, but in terms of tech, it's no big secret that tech is kind of dominated by a certain demographic. And I would imagine that demographic lines up more with what's already on Twitch, kind of like the young, kind of guy in your late teens, early 20s. Those seem to be the people that gravitate more towards tech. Sure. So I imagine there's definitely an audience on there, but I've always liked the idea of reaching out to other audiences. In particular, in the stream, I think we do a good job in the chat of being welcoming to everyone. I know, especially women, and I imagine other groups as well, sometimes have a rough time of it on social media with when it comes to coding and things. Sure. Because other people just say ridiculous things to them. Yeah. So in the chat, I've been able on YouTube to do a really good job of we've really never had a problem. I've only had to ban 2 people in the last, year plus from the chat. So it's kind of been an amazing, pretty diverse community that watches a stream. So I don't know. I like that, and I just think it might be harder to get something like that on Twitch. So I'm not entirely against Twitch, but I would just imagine that the base of people who already have Twitch accounts are definitely different than the base of people who have YouTube accounts.
Yeah. So you're saying you have about 20 to 30 people per like stream when you normally do it?
Yeah, so that's at any given time. So, over the course of a stream, I might get, I don't know, like 200 views.
Yeah.
So people drop in and out. Usually, it kind of depends on the topic of what I'm doing that day as to how many people I get. But, I believe I have some videos that have 25,000 plus, maybe 30,000 views. I to be honest, I haven't checked the view counts in a long time.
Yeah.
Well, at first I checked the view counts all the time, but now, I mean, I have well over 100 videos. So it's hundreds of hours of content.
Yeah.
It just takes forever to check the view counts anymore. And then some of my videos they kind of flop and it's like 1,000 views. But I get most of the views within the first 24 hours, which probably isn't uncommon. But if I hit 2,000, I'd say that's pretty average, or pretty good. 2,000 views.
And so I guess everything is recorded and stored, so you could see every stream in the past that you've ever done. So so you definitely have people that can follow up if they miss the previous night. They can't ask questions, but they can at least watch it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think a lot of people are like that because there's not really a time that I can stream that would be good for all time zones. So a lot of people do, they only catch the stream recorded. Occasionally I'll do a stream at just a weird time, and I'll have people on there to say, "Hey, this is the first time I ever watched it live." Yeah, but it's nice that it's actually nice for me that they're pre-recorded as well, because if I go back to work on something and I've forgotten how I did a thing, I can just go back to that video and to rewatch how I built something. And that saved me.
Sure.
It saved me so many times. I think I accidentally deleted something that I shouldn't once, and I was able to go back to the video and figure out what I did. And I mean, normally you'd never be able to do that.
Yeah.
You'd be stuck.
So you're working through React Native now, correct?
Yeah. So right now the main project I'm working on is just regular React. But we have an ongoing React Native project that I haven't really done anything with for a while. And then I have a side project that I'm working on that I haven't streamed about yet, and that's React Native.
Okay. Well, I think that's where I was going. Is it looks like you're hitting a variety of topics. What is out there that you find exciting enough that you're probably going to cover sometime in the next few weeks or months?
Yeah. So I want to finish this project we're doing right now. It's the main website for my university, so it'll be the biggest website that I've done at my current position. And I've just been working on it way longer than I wanted to. So I definitely want to get that done as soon as possible. And after that, I'd love to get back to React Native. I think it's fun. It's just really fun and maybe I'm just so used to doing things for the web. It's lost some of its excitement, but being able to do something and then see it show up on your phone is really cool. I don't know. For some reason, I always had this idea that, developing an app was really hard, like a mobile app. But, and maybe it is, but React Native makes it, I don't know, in my mind, it's so much easier than I ever thought it could be. So I like that. I just need to find some reason to do it at my current job. We also have an Electron app that we had started and not finished. So it'd be great to go back and finish and launch a few of those things that we had to stop work on and switch over to this project that I have now. So
Sure.
those things. The only other thing that I did do some streaming on my own channel about that I think would be cool to get into is some of the blockchain things. And when you had my wife on the podcast, she had mentioned Solidity.
Yeah.
So I don't really know what I would do. I don't have a project in mind for developing anything with Solidity, but it's fun to work with. And it's kind of a cool new technology. And the space is really new. So I think anybody that develops has a shot of getting some exposure right now. It's not, you put something in one of the app stores and it could get drowned out so easily. It's really a struggle to get noticed because there's so many things going on. But right now in the distributed app territory, it wouldn't take that much promotion to get the name out there. And get some users. So I think that's just kind of a new opportunity that it's cool. I lived through the whole app thing, and when really like they were some of the first apps that were popular were probably terrible, but they were the only ones there.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of too young to really have been old enough to build the first websites on the internet. But I kind of remember what they look like. And it's kind of the same thing is that, you have a good idea and you do your best to accomplish it and you could actually get some users. You don't need a bunch of marketing dollars behind it. And that kind of appeals to me that it's still a pretty fair place to get into and it's not dominated by any big companies yet.
Yep. I agree with that.
Sure. Yeah, there are a lot of people out there fighting for it, but until there's something solid out there, there's real estate to be gained, for sure.
And that's one of the side projects I'm working on is called it's balance.io. So they have a website where you can check the balances of your wallets, so your Ethereum based wallets, and the big thing that they do is their UI is really nice. Unfortunately, a lot of the UIs out there for handling transactions on the blockchain are really bare bones and complicated. And it worked for so long because blockchain was really just the domain of people who knew what they were doing and were really tech savvy. But now there's a lot more people getting into it who aren't. And there's really never an excuse, I think, for having a terrible UI. But this has the nicest one that I've seen. And fortunately, I was able to get involved, and now I'm working on developing the UI for their React Native apps. Particularly, we're working on the iOS app right now, so it'll be a very nice looking app, and we're really focusing on the user experience and making it look good. And there's not one app right now. I'm an Android user, so at least on Android, there's not one app right now that stands out to me as this is it. This is the one. You have to get this one if you want to keep track of all your balances and in your different cryptocurrencies. And this one, I think it could be it. It's so it's kind of fun. It's a fun project. It's nice to work on a team as well because usually I got to handle all aspects of development. Where I'm at, which is nice because you have total control, but it's also a lot. It's nice to just be able to say, okay, the designers give me the designs, I build the UI out, and then I hand it off, and somebody else connects it to the back end. That's just, I don't know. It's kind of a cool thing to work on. It lets me focus.
Yeah, really cool. It does help when there's other people involved for sure. I know for a long time I'd do something on my own and Randy was doing something on his own and we were in different languages even, so we couldn't really bounce things off each other. But lately we've been doing the same project. So that's been
so now it's just the blind leading the blind, but it's more fun.
There is that.
Yeah, it's always so nice. And being a freelancer for so long too, I really appreciate having a community. And the live stream kind of allows me to have a community of developers now. which is something I never had. So, I mean, there's definitely a lot of benefits to being a freelancer, but you do miss out on some things without having people to work with. And especially developing your skills. I think you can develop your skills faster if you have the right people that you're working with that can help you. Even if you're at the same level, or even if you're kind of more experienced than them, there's always some area that they're going to research that you don't know about. And you can, being self-taught, I went down a lot of dead ends.
Sure.
I'd try out this course and it turned out to be terrible, or it taught me things that were outdated. And, having somebody there to point you in the right direction I think it's nice. It's one of the questions I get asked most frequently is, what resources should I use to learn? Like, what are your favorite resources? And, being able to say, this works for me, and I think that saves a lot of time. And you need somebody that's gone through it before to be able to tell you.
Right. So how do people find you on the internet, various places?
Yeah.
So how do they find you on Twitter?
Yeah.
And on
so
YouTube?
on Twitter, it's at Jesse R. Weigel. I guess I'll spell that JESSERWEIGEL. And my YouTube channel is also Jesse. I think it's Jesse Weigel. I don't think I have the R on there. FreeCodeCamp YouTube channel is just FreeCodeCamp. I'm on Instagram, and I think I'm Jesse.Weigel. So it's everything's some combination of Jesse Weigel. It's not that common of a name, so even if you just typed it in Google, I should show up on the first page with a lot of my social media stuff.
Sure.
I think I'm on most of the social media platforms. So I always tell people, whatever you're most comfortable using, just reach out to me on there. And that's fine with me. My DMs are open. If anyone has any questions, I can't always get back to you right away, but I'll do my best to help you out. And also, I hope you don't mind me plugging this, but I do have a Patreon account as well. So if anybody out there likes the work that I'm doing and you can afford to spare a little bit, it would definitely help me to be able to dedicate more time to the volunteer stuff that I'm doing. So I, definitely appreciate that.
For sure.
And how do people find the Patreon?
I think I'm Jesse R. Weigel on Patreon too. I have links to it definitely from my YouTube channel. I have it linked to. I didn't want to make a big deal and be pushy about it, so I didn't kind of link to it everywhere. So I guess it's probably not the easiest thing to get to, but if you just search for my name on Patreon, it should come up.
Okay, we'll find it and put it in the show notes. Yeah,
exactly. We'll gather all that together and put it in the show notes for anybody trying to find any of these things.
Yeah, and if anybody goes to my website, I built that years ago, and I haven't updated it.
Everybody has to apologize. Anyone that's not a designer, you don't have to apologize. Does it work? That's what your job is.
It's an old WordPress site that I built a long time ago. So it still works though, and I've always wanted to change it.
Sure. Most developers' private websites are the last thing they work on.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, that's probably a good sign because it means they're so busy with their other work. They don't have time for that.
Sure. Well, I certainly thank you for joining us today. I appreciate you sharing your story with us. Randy, did you have anything else to chime in with?
No, sounds great. I can tell you that people learn in a lot of different ways. So, I encourage you to keep doing the free code camp streams. Somebody out there is able to watch you as you learn yourself and explain things, and that's working great for them. So just like your wife and my wife and the students that I teach, having more people out there sharing how they do the job is really helpful. So, keep on doing that because I think it's great for the industry.
Thank you. Yeah, and I definitely want to encourage anyone who's coding and maybe you're not on a team. Like, don't be afraid to share your code. I was very afraid to share my code, even paid to get the private repos on GitHub. But now I mess up very frequently live in front of a lot of people all the time, and it's the best thing I can do. That's the most unique thing about what I do on YouTube, and what sets me apart is that I don't rehearse and I mess things up, and then we work through the mistakes. And that's super valuable. So it happens to everybody. So just don't be too afraid. I haven't had, the negative feedback's been very minimal. And I say that realizing that I'm a kind of like middle-class white American male. So I realize that not everybody is going to have that positive feedback like I do. But and I know that's what, I mean, that's my privilege, right? So, but I would still say that the negative feedback will probably be less than what you think it will be. You know, if you're honest about it and just say, like, you know, this is what I got. I know it's not perfect, you know?
Yep.
Well, and I do think rarely is the mistake you're making something unique and something that nobody else has ever made in their life. So you making it is showing somebody else that it's okay to make mistakes. So I'm completely on board with that. Well, thanks again, and we'll get all those channels into the show notes. And we appreciate your time today, Justin.
Oh yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Right.
Sure. All right, and we'll wrap it, Randy. Thank you very much.
All right. Talk to you later.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to This Old App. Show notes and previous episodes can be found on our website at www.thisoldapp.online. Reviews on Apple iTunes are always appreciated and help promote the show. For questions, comments, or things you would like to hear on future shows, please email us at hello@thisoldapp.online. Show music is Guns Blazing by Fab Claxton, licensed by Pond 5. Voiceover work by MeganVoices.com. You'll hear from us soon.